Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Roast into Ceilings podcast. Today, we're joined by Taylor, who is a woman in business and an entrepreneur. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, you guys, thanks for having me on. I'm Taylor Proctor. I classify myself as a serial entrepreneur, and one of my businesses is that I am a business coach. So I like to say that I help entrepreneurs get good at business so they can get back into the heart of why they got into business in the first place.
Oh, that is so sweet. I find the word that you use really interesting, serial entrepreneur, because usually when you hear serial, you think like murderer. So do you want to guide us through why you kind of identify yourself as that, like why this is kind of like your identity there?
Yeah, mostly because I'm an owner in four very distinct and different companies. I have ownership in a women's multimedia global network. I also have ownership in a nutraceuticals manufacturing company. I have also ownership I'm a third owner in a suicidality prevention and healthcare uh, business. And then my fourth business, which is the one that I dedicate the most of my time to and I do not have any partners in, is my coaching business. So a lot of different things, but all of it really comes full circle in really getting good at business and helping change the world, make that impact in those ways. And so I say serial entrepreneur because I would say like, oh, I'm a business coach and I coach in these different areas, and that would be that. But because they're so different in their industries that I help serve and that I have companies in, I think serial is probably the most descriptive word to use.
It's eye-catching for sure, I think. That's very sweet. I want to know, you, like again, you mentioned those are very, very different companies. Do you find that there are like still similarities with running a business, so would you say that it's like similar enough, or is it like completely different to running a business in one industry to another?
Yeah, so I love that you say that too because throughout my career, so I own businesses now. I actually spent I'm about 2 years out on my own now, but I spent about 15 years in corporate America as well. And oftentimes I'd go into work for an organization and they would say, "Hey, we have this idea." They'd throw me the keys and say, "Make it happen." And in fact, at one of the companies I worked for, they said, "We have this idea, we need somebody to run it, make it happen." And I ran it for 3 years, and in that time frame we went from 0 team members to 30, from one service to five, from one language to five, to millions of dollars in revenue in a 3-year period. And I even spent 6 weeks living in Edinburgh, Scotland, setting up our European team.
Oh, wow.
And in in that time frame, this is where it's the important part is, in that time frame, for about a year and a half of that 3-year period, I didn't have a boss. And so I would literally go around to the C-suite executives in the company and say, "Can I just have a half hour of your time once a month so someone knows what's happening in my department?" And I mean, I was running our hiring systems, I was looking at our finances, like all these pieces, really treating it as though it was my own business. And so what I have found through those processes that I built up over 15 years of being an intrapreneur in the corporate space to moving into entrepreneurship and being an owner in these four very diverse companies is that the fundamentals, the foundations of business are all very similar. And in fact, I've created a methodology called I Move, which stands for intuition, marketing, operations, velocity, and execution. And I found that when entrepreneurs, business owners, and even leaders in the corporate space can get on board and follow the I move method in their business, then they inevitably find success. So there is a lot of foundational solid points that can be applied across any industry.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Can you go deeper into the I move movement? Like, how does somebody apply it practically to the business that they're doing?
Absolutely. So the I stands for intuition. And what I see is that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they'll just jump in and somebody said, "Oh, do it this way and you'll get the success that you want." And they went, "Oh, okay." And then they just jump in and they do it, and then it falls flat on its face, right? Because it's not aligned, it's not congruent, it's not led by the intuition and by the mindset piece first. And I even saw that in myself in corporate. Like we had a situation where I had a colleague that I'd hired to help me with my team really pushing this idea and wanting to do this test. And I was like, I already know, like, that's not going to work. It's going to cause all sorts of problems. And intuitively, I knew. And then I was like, well, to be a good team member and all this stuff, I was like, sure, I'll try it. Totally tanked, caused all these problems where we were reeling from it for 6 months afterward as a team, like all these things. And I was like, if I had just listened to my intuition. And as entrepreneurs, we see that too. Like if we just listen to our intuition and we're led by that, then we could take that aligned and congruent action. So the very first part of I Move is really tapping in and understanding that we each have our own unique intuition that is guiding us to where we need to be so that we can take that aligned and congruent action. From there, we move into the M of I Move, which is marketing. Well, if you're taking aligned, congruent action, your marketing, your messaging, everything starts to come into place and you get that massive momentum really coming through, which then can be supported by the operational processes to really help you scale, right? Like, cool, we've got people coming in, our marketing is working. Operations, I really look at as a sales technique. So then your sales are happening and you're building in processes that allow you to take your business to the next level. From there, we can look at having the space for growth strategies that add the V, velocity, right? So what are those intuitively led actions that we can take, those strategies we can implement to add more velocity to the business, and then be able to step into the E, which is execute, so that we can execute with ease. So it really is a beautiful flow to be able to step into that and say, how do I build this department? Or how do I build my team if you're in the corporate space? Or how do I build my business? And how do I build my team? Or how do I build my sales processes? All of those really come in when you look at the I Move method. And it really helps because right now we live in a world of so much information that it can be so hard to determine what makes sense for me in my business. And there's all these strategies, which ones are the right ones for me. And so when you lean into the I Move method, you find those strategies that are the right fit to help you grow your business. You get that massive momentum in your marketing. It's supported by your operational processes that allow you to scale, which gives you the opportunity to add velocity growth strategies so you can do that without burning out and you can execute with ease.
Oh, that's very clear and straightforward. I thought it'd be more complicated because I assumed business was like, but I had a question. Out of these 5 steps from I Move, what do you find people tend to look past the most? Like, what do people kind of think, oh, this isn't that important, and then completely fail on, like, afterwards? Like, which step would that be?
So it's fascinating because it really depends on the individual. So I have clients right now that are crushing it in intuition and execution. So they're like, I got this download to follow my intuition. I'm going to do it. I'm executing on it. But then they're not like putting the operations in place to actually support the business. And so it feels a lot like it's led, it's guiding, it's making sense, but it's not growing as fast or as efficiently as it could because they're not focused on the operations. I have another client that crushes it in the marketing all day long, right? And clients coming in like crazy. But then he stumbles in the operations standpoint where he's like, I don't have standard operating procedures in place. I'm losing clients because I'm making mistakes in what I'm giving them. And so we're really working on supporting his operational components so that that doesn't happen and he can scale. So it really depends on the individual. A lot of individuals will say that they think it's the marketing, right? Like, oh, I just need help with my marketing. I just need help with my marketing. And we see that a lot. And it's like, okay, well, is it TikTok? Is it Instagram? Is it YouTube? Is it ads? Is it content marketing? Like, what parts of marketing do you need help in? And that's where the intuition and the aligned strategies can come into play. But a lot of people will say it's their marketing. And when they say it's their marketing, it's usually actually their intuition because they're going to all these different places to try and make the marketing work instead of following their intuition, choosing an aligned strategy and going all in on that and then actually seeing the results, right? So it depends. The long answer, there it is. The short answer is it depends on the individual. But if I was to ask a broad audience, I think a lot of them would say marketing. And then that's the case, it's usually their intuition that is the faulty point.
How long do you work with these clients? Is it kind of like a one-time kind of review, here's everything you should do kind of thing, or do you like follow them for a long time?
I love that question. So I actually believe in results-driven coaching. So the longest I've worked with a client is 6 months. And I typically like to do a business audit and strategy session, which is a 2-hour session where we audit the business as it pertains to the I move method. So then we really find, and we can find those gaps through the audit and then fill those gaps through creating a 90-day strategy. And then my favorite thing that I do, one of my top services that I offer, we did over 30 last year, is called Quantum Power Days. And what that is that's a 6-hour day where it's called Quantum Power Days because we tap into the business owner's innate power and help them leap their business forward. And for all 30 that we have done, every client without fail has said, if I had done this on my own, it would have taken me 3 months to do. So what we do is we sit down together and we take a single day, 6 hours, we work together and we crush and knock out all of the things that are on their to-do list that they need to get done. So they have the momentum, they have the assets. They're not saying, oh, I need to build this. It's built all in one day. So that's actually my favorite thing to do. And then from there, it usually is, hey, how can we stay accountable? How can we keep that momentum going? How can we add the velocity and the growth strategies to these next levels? And that's where we work one-on-one up to a 6-month period. But I believe heavily in results. And so I'm not the kind of person where I'm like, yeah, you should work with me for a long time and then we get results. It's like, no, we can work together for 6 hours and you get results.
Oh, wow. Could you go a little into what the innate power means? I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So every person is so powerful, but oftentimes they don't have a way to tap into that, or they don't believe that they are. And so when we come into a power day, oftentimes my clients are like, I have all these things that have been on my to-do list for 3 months or more. And it can be like launching a course, creating landing pages, setting up email campaigns, creating content, building their website. Like there's so many different things that can be on their list, building a business plan, reaching out to investors. And so we sit down and we go, okay, let's actually do those here. But it's not me doing it for them, it's doing it with them. And so in that, I'm able to help them tap into that power that is innate within them. It is there. They just haven't been able to access it because they've had the too long of a to-do list or their beliefs and things have gotten in the way. And so we really then go, cool, let's tap into that and quantum leap your business forward. And in fact, I did a quantum power day yesterday and we were like, cool, we need to build out a referral program and everything that contains. We built out a 5-day challenge and what that looked like and actually built all the assets and materials for it. And we did a collaboration bundle breakdown and like mapped all what that would look like. But we did all of those things. And I mean, those are 3 huge lifts done in one day, but we couldn't move forward on it until we did a belief breakthrough. And this isn't for every client, but in this case, this person needed it, where they had this belief that being in business that had to be hard. Right. And so we were really looking at, okay, how do you repurpose your content? How do you make this easy for you? How do you scale with ease? How do you execute with ease? And she had this belief that business had to be hard. And so we did some belief breakthrough work, really came out on the other side of that, where she was like, it was really funny because leading up to all the activities before we broke the belief was, oh, well, I don't know if I can do that because I'm really proud of how I do this, this, and this. And it was all like very hard work type of things. And after the belief, when we were going through this, she's like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. And it would be so easy for me to do this, this, and this. And it was like, ease was the word of the day after that. But we had to break through that so she could tap into her innate power and really take action on and build all the things that were on her to-do list, which coincidentally had been on her to-do list for 3 years. She'd wanted to build a referral program for 3 years. She'd want to do collaboration bundles for 3 years. She had 6 years of being in business worth of content and had never repurposed any of it because she thought that that was the easy route. And so we did all this work to come out on the other side, but we really were able to tap into her innate power to do it. Because for me, as a coach and as a results-driven implementer, right, helping them implement, if they can't tap into their innate power, by the end of the day, it stops there because there's no movement and momentum because they're relying on me. So we really like to tap into that and explore what that looks like for them so that they can continue long after working with me and have that forward push in their business.
Can I ask, is 6 hours like enough most of the time? Because like I'm hearing you say like email campaign and like all these like big projects like referral programs. Do these all like get finished in 6 hours? Like how do you manage that?
It's crazy. So it's really funny because every time I talk about it, I'm like, I think people are probably like, that's a lot. And the truth is like, oftentimes when I'm working with someone, they'll be like, oh, I just need this and this. And I'm like, we'll finish that in 2 hours. Do you have other things on your to-do list? And they're like, really? And I'm like, I promise. And I think a lot of that comes from my years of experience, right? I have grown 4 businesses on my own. I have grown multiple departments over 15 years on my own. I worked in agency settings where I was setting up campaigns and I was doing branding documents and I was working with the clients and running financials and all of these things. And so I have a really good wide breadth of experience from ground up. And so I intuitively and instinctively at this point know, okay, you tell me that you want to launch a course. Beautiful. Let's get that done. And in that, I ask all the right questions. I say, okay, so what is the intention behind this course? Okay, tell me the intention. Great. What is the benefit? What will someone get out of being a participant in this course? Oh, they'll get these things. Okay, how many modules do we want to do? 6. All right, let's break down each module. What is the benefit of this module? What is the results of this module? And what information does this module cover? And like by asking those questions, we suddenly build out, and it's super crazy and easy, but we suddenly build out, okay, there's all your bullet points to create the videos for your modules. Then there's the benefits and the results. There's your marketing copy for those modules. So and then the information needed, we compile all of that. So the resources for those modules are there. And then it's like, okay, here's the course ready to go. And we can take all of that, create our marketing material and build out a video sales script, a landing page. And then based on the material per each of the modules, we can then create and put in place an email campaign, a drip system campaign, right? So even then right there, it's like that would take us an hour. But if without someone who has that experience like I do, it can take someone and feel like it takes them 3 months to build that all out. Now imagine that on steroids if you've got 6 different projects that you need to have done for your business and we're getting them all done an hour per each one. And I'm pretty good at being like, okay, that one's going to be a longer one. Or if we have some belief breakthroughs we need to do, it may take a little bit longer. But ultimately, to answer your question, I think that my ability to do that really comes into play with my breadth of experience and the fact that I can tap in and it is very intuitively aligned. So very often I will ask things like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how does that feel? And they'll be like, oh, good. And I'm like, good is an 8. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how does that feel? And they're like, actually an 8. I'm like, okay, what do we need to do to make it a 10? And the piece of that is it's not me building it. It's us building it together. So it acts as a training as well. But also when we adjust it and make those minor pieces to turn it into a 10, now it has the energy and the momentum long past working with me, like I mentioned before. And so yeah, I mean, as you can tell, I love doing it. I'm super passionate about Quantum Power Days. I'm all about the results, all about the execution, the implementation. And I'm just honored to have had a career that allows me to have that breadth of experience to be able to step in and help in all those different unique areas and do it in a way that is results driven and quick.
Was there any pivotal moment in your career that made you think, oh, wow, I would make a really, really good business coach? Or do you think it was more of a growth over time and experience?
There's a hybrid there. So growth over time and experience, definitely. I never thought of myself as a business coach when I was in the entrepreneur space. Like I was a corporate leader. And then actually I didn't even know the word entrepreneur until I was out of corporate. And somebody was like, oh yeah, you're totally an entrepreneur. And I was like, what is that? And it's like, oh, an entrepreneur is someone who treats their whole business in their corporate career like as though it's their business. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. And so that was like the long-term growth component. But while I was working in corporate, I started looking and working in personal development spaces, and I decided that I wanted to get my certification as a life coach. And I really focused on happiness. So I actually ran a side business, a side hustle as a transformational happiness mentor. And so I would help people get happier in their lives through building out happiness habits and a series of things in like a 10-week period.
Mm-hmm.
And what inevitably would happen is the clients I was working with for the happiness side, they all were entrepreneurs of some kind. And so what would happen is we would finish working together and they would say, oh my gosh, everything in my life is so much better. My relationship with my partner and my kids, I feel so much happier. I actually really love my days. And I would ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, like, hey, how are your days going throughout the 10-week period? And they would start at a 2 or a 3 when they came to work with me. And by the end, they'd be 7s, 8s, and 9s. Nobody wants to say they're a 10. Like nobody's like, I'm so overjoyed happy. They're always like, I have room to improve, but I'm a 9. Anyway, so they'd be at 7, 8s, and 9s ongoing, which is a huge leap from a 2 or a 3. And sustainably so. But they'd be like, okay, I'm doing really good in all these areas. Now, if I could just get good at business. And I was like, I have a whole secret life over here that they didn't know about, where I was literally running departments as businesses. And so the kind of the electric shock moment of like, oh, I could do this was, well, talk to me about what you need help with in your business. They're like, oh, I need help with this in marketing. I'm like, oh, well, technically in the marketing space, I'm considered an expert in social and content creation, and you're just needing help with content creation. So like, let's brainstorm on how we can do that. And so it really started this shift and evolution of my coaching business to start helping with businesses, helping them get good at business. And then 2 years ago, I was like, I actually think I'm ready to leave corporate. I mean, I left in a C-suite position, so it's not like I hadn't climbed the ladder, but I was like, I think it's time for me to really go out on my own. And I haven't looked back since, and I absolutely love it.